Written by TheWritingMephisto. As anyone who has ever gone to their local mattress store knows, a bed is not cheap. I can still see the face of the dealer, pity with slight essence of annoyance, when he asked me my budget and heard the laughably low number I gave. He escorted me over to the single beds, stating that they were the cheapest they had, all the while assuring me their price does not mean just sheet-covered stones. Now, I am sure they are comfy beds for the average-sized person. I am, however, 6'8", and have grown tired of having my legs hang off the bottom of beds. My back was starting to feel the results of constantly needing to fold myself double in order to have my entire body in some form of comfort. After not finding any mattresses my size on a budget, I had no choice other than to do something semi-gross. I looked for beds on Craigslist. At first, I was having no luck. Some of the beds looked gross, while others were even more expensive than the brand new mattresses at the store. After about an hour of off and on searching, I finally saw an ad which caught my eye. Some guy was having a "she tore my heart out so I'm selling all her stuff" sale. I inspected the pictures and the bed looked pretty decent, with a fairly decent price to boot. Best part was the ad had just been posted. Surely this was a sign from the mattress gods. I called up the number attached and turned out he lived practically around the corner from me. I told him I would be there in 5 minutes and scrambled to get to him before some internet vulture swoops in with a better offer. Upon arriving at the seller's home, I saw that multiple pieces of furniture were out on the sidewalk. Turns out he was having a damned clearance sale for almost everything in his home. Only a handful of people were browsing the objects as the day was coming to an end. I found the owner quick enough and he led me to the bed. As we walked, he explained to me that he had been having this yard sale since the crack of dawn and was beginning to place ads for everything that had not been claimed already. I couldn't believe my luck. Why would no one want to buy a dirt-cheap king-sized bed? My answer came when I saw the mattress. It had a large cut down the center which had been crudely stitched back up. I was about to ask when the answer immediately filled the momentary silence. I may have gone off on it a little. Let's just say my wife seemed to enjoy entertaining her friends on it. But the bed is still good. To prove his point, he let me try it out. At first I was hesitant, but the moment I laid down my head, it felt as though I was a child resting on my mother's lap on a late Sunday afternoon in the park. This wondrous sensation was then rudely interrupted by sudden shaking. In my groggy state, I asked him how much he wanted, completely forgetting the amount he had posted. I noticed that he was looking towards the road when he stated that I should name my price. Finding this all rather odd, I offered him half the price he posted, completely sure he would snap out of whatever trance he was in once he heard the ridiculous price. Dude just said yes right away. I meant that more as a joke, are you sure? I vomited out the response without much thought. As you can tell, I'm great at negotiation. No, really, it's fine. Look, I'll even drop it off for you, but we gotta go now. He was starting to look a bit flustered as he continued staring at the road. I looked over to see what had caught his attention when I felt a hand tightly grip my shoulder. I froze for a moment. Look, my wife doesn't know I'm doing this, and I just want to get all her shit out before she gets here. It's getting late, so let's do this, all right? He said with a rather pained smile on his face. I transferred the money and we carried the mattress over to his truck. As we approached his truck, I noticed that the backseat was just packed with all manner of household items and clothes. Yeah, planning on moving out. She's probably going to win the house, so you know. The man really liked oversharing, it seemed. And so, 20 minutes later, I had my dream bed. It was a hassle getting it into the room, but we managed. I even scored the bed frame for no extra charge. My first night on the mattress was incredible. It even had a floral scent, which I assumed was the lingering scent of the previous owner. Once this thought went through my head, I felt somewhat creeped out, but this feeling passed the longer I enjoyed my new bed. There was just one slight problem with the bed. When I laid on either side of the cut, the mattress was firm and everything I wanted out of the bed. But the center with the cut had a dip that I would get stuck in. The guy wasn't lying when he said he went ballistic on it. Pretty sure he must have borderline cut the mattress in half. For interest's sake, I started turning over the mattress with no real improvement, as now I had to contend with a bump trying to roll me off the bed. I voted that sinking into the mattress was preferable to being rolled off. The next morning, I woke feeling well rested for the first time in a long time. After stopping the alarm, I noticed a dripping sound coming from somewhere in my room. I checked the ceiling for any leaks in the roof. However, the dripping sound stopped after about 3 drips. Instead of continuing my pointless search, I decided to get dressed and left for work. The day was long and exhausting, with long spurts of boredom in between. On my way home, I decided I was going to just jump on my bed and have a little afternoon nap before getting my act together and making supper. When I finally reached my destination, I dragged myself from my car towards my apartment. I managed to push open the door to my home and kick the shoes off of my swollen feet. Approaching my bed, I tossed my bag onto the floor and jumped for my rejuvenating cloud, flopping down heavily on my square of paradise. It was wonderful. My face embedded in the fluffy white ocean, my aching feet slipping under the puffed up duvet, feeling the heat from my body transfer over to my cozy little hovel. I took a deep breath and felt slightly disappointed when the pleasant flower scent was no longer as prevalent as the night before. Once again feeling a bit creeped out by myself since I now missed the scent of the previous owner. This mattered little as I was carried off by my king-sized cloud to the land of make-believe. My nap came to an abrupt end when an incessant buzzing sound began orbiting my head. I opened my puffy eyes to witness a shiny green blur darting around my room. In true chaotic fashion, the little flying interloper would be on the ceiling, then hit a wall, then swoop down towards my face so as to slightly tickle on my nose, a sensation which would immediately cause images of whatever my mind believed the little parasite had sat on before. My arm automatically shot to slap at the pest, naturally with no real effect save for altering the already nonsensical pattern to something even more erratic. After making contact with nothing but air for a minute or two, I decided it was best to start my day. And then I heard it again. The taps were so rapid that I really couldn't place where they were coming from, but the general area seemed to be near my bed. I remained immobile for a time, but I didn't hear any additional taps. Not really knowing what else I could do, I decided I would make a request with the building manager to check for leaks when I got back from work. The day went by quick enough, and my meeting with the building manager ended with an agreement to give my apartment a once-over during the weekend. Later that evening, as I curled myself up into my cocoon of puffy pillows, I was rudely informed that falling asleep would be no simple task. Buzzing had returned to my room. However, now it had multiplied. I must have laid there for about an hour before blessed silence returned, and I could finally drift off. I was floating over the ocean, the shimmering blue ripples below me showing my reflection. On occasion, the light reflecting off the crystal-like surface blinded me, and with each passing flash, my reflection began to become more alien to me, slowly taking on the appearance of a fish. Suddenly, the shimmering blue wall erupted into a chaotic surging of crimson tendrils. Thousands of them surrounded me, not even allowing me to consider escape. I could feel them touching me, small wriggling wet fingers sliding across my body, on my back, my arms, my chest. The moment the tendril touched my face, my mind decided to kick me from my vivid nightmare, my hands digging into the mattress as they propped me up into a sitting position. I took several deep breaths to calm down, still feeling the sensation of wriggling on my body. However, as I calmed down, I noticed that the sensation wasn't disappearing. If anything, it felt even more unsettling. The sensation was coming from underneath me, but noted that the hand which had left the surface of my mattress was no longer plagued by the unpleasant sensation. The wriggling underneath me, however, continued. As I shifted my weight in preparation to get off the bed, I was startled by a muffled popping sound, like a bag of chips being slapped. This was followed by what sounded like water in a bucket being thrown out below me. My eyes watered as I instinctively began to gag. Some horrible stench had begun to fill the room. The bed that had once smelled of floral perfume now stank of mossy decay. Add to the continued wriggling beneath me, the act of keeping my supper down was becoming increasingly more difficult. It was time to get out of bed. The dripping had returned, however this time it did not appear to be a handful of drops. There was no mistaking where it was coming from. Trying my best to stomach the stench, I turned on a light and approached the bed once more. I began to push it towards the opposite wall and froze when my foot made contact with a cold, wet sludge. Jumping back, I saw an inky black puddle, almost as wide as the bed itself. The dripping persisted, still emanating from the bed. With my nose now somewhat accustomed to the horrible scent, I ripped off the sheets and duvet with one quick, hard tug. The air caught in my lungs as I saw a large black spot on my mattress, the center of which seemed to emanate from the cut. And it was moving. Not the entire spot as a solid mass, but rather as hundreds of tiny creatures wriggling around a central point. I should have just left it there, just called the police and left the room, but some primal desire to know what was happening took hold of me. After making a quick dash for the kitchen, I returned to my room and, after a bit of hesitation, plunged the knife into the stitching of the cut at the top of the mattress. Following the path down the mattress, it gave minimal resistance to my cutting. I listened to the material tear as I led the knife down the mattress. My smooth motion was, however, interrupted upon reaching the stain. Something hard was obstructing my knife. For a moment, I considered letting it go and just calling the police already as the scent had grown in intensity, but I had already come so far. I lifted the knife out slowly until I no longer felt the obstruction and slashed it down the rest of the way. What I saw chilled me. Hundreds of little white maggots were wriggling and writhing within the mattress. The waves of worms crashing over one another as they attempted to hide from the light shining upon their pale bodies. The waves crashing and burrowing into the gelatinous gray mass. It looked like an exploded gray water balloon that had been filled with earthworms. The horrible green and red vines that were once contained within the fleshy mass had been slowly ripped apart by the pastel invaders looking for a rotten cave to grow in. Faded ripped cloth stuck and almost fused to the sludge, which I could only assume was once skin. But its face is what caused me to flee from the room. Of the handful of bloated features I could still make out, I realized that this rotting corpse was once a woman. Her end must have been the fact that half her face had been beaten in, revealing the gray, gooey substance of her skull. Thank you for listening. You can probably handle another horror story, right?